Homeschooling parents have been known to carve out paths for their children that may be uncharted when they want their kids to have certain experiences. They design their own curricula, design their own apps, open online groups, and start co-ops. If an opportunity is not available where they live, trailblazing and inspiring others to join them is not a foreign concept. In this Part 2 episode of the Benefits of 4-H on your child's homeschool education, I sit down for a chat with Syntex HBCU alumni 4-H Club manager Tony Austin and his wife Cheryl Austin, who is also an extension agent for Prairie View A&M University, which sponsors our 4-H Club. You'll learn what inspired them to start our 4-H club, the role land-grant HBCUs play in 4-H, and what kids, particularly kids of color, stand to gain from experiencing 4-H. All right, so I want to welcome my 4-H club manager and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Tony Austin and Miss Cheryl Austin, to A Heart for Homeschool podcast. I'm excited about this podcast interview because it's been a long time coming, and I've been a great admirer of what you all have done within the Central Texas community. So I want to start off by asking both of you to share a little bit about your background of like who you are, what your, degrees are in, and what you currently do.
Okay, well, I'll start off. So I am an extension agent, and I work for Prairie View A&M University for their extension program. Been working with them for 24 years in Bell County. And I went to Texas Women's University, and I did an internship at Prairie View. And that's how I ended up working for them. But my background is dietetics, nutrition. So.
Awesome.
And my name is Tony Austin, and I am a social worker and also an entrepreneur, the owner of TA University LLC, all right, which is more of a serial type of entrepreneurship. And I went to Prairie View A&M University on the athletic scholarship or track and field scholarship, which is how I initially got connected to 4-H, because before I graduated from Prairie View with my degree in social work, we had to do an internship, and my internship was through the cooperative extension program at Prairie View /4-H.
Okay, so did you have in mind, or did you envision at that time that you would ever like start your own 4-H club? Or so like, is that like, has it been a long-term goal, or did you kind of full circle come back to that memory or that experience?
Well, I think that summer when I was interning, we were in Huntsville, Texas, at the HS Estelle 4-H youth camp, and I remember how the youth will come from all over, or various parts of Texas, I should say. They would come in on a Monday morning and leave out like on a Friday afternoon. I just remember how a number of the youth would be like crying and sobbing because they were having to go back home. And for some of them that were from some of, your rougher inner city areas or low income areas, they were going back to a life where they weren't going to be getting 3-course meals. And that really, kind of hit me pretty hard. And it's like, hey, I think the fact that I love social work, one day I want to do something to be able to help the youth. I just probably didn't see it at that moment in a form of running a 4-H club, but I knew I wanted to help, young people, especially since I come from humble beginnings as well. So
I think it kind of evolved because with him, we met through the job because of my job. So he was an instant volunteer in a sense, a youth volunteer. And so as we just began working together with the 4-H program, I think it just kind of evolved to that.
Oh, okay. All right. So fast forwarding now to you guys live in Central Texas, where I do, and typically in my mind, most people associate 4-H with showing animals and livestock. You don't see a lot of Black and brown faces. And so what inspired you to start Syntax 4-H HBCU 4-H Club?
We'll need to meander for a second. But my freshman year at Prairie View, I had two upperclassmen roommates who were ag majors. And I just remember how, they were just always excited and about the activities that they had going on. And me, I'm in my own mind, I'm thinking why are they so, excited about horses and things like that? But they were educating me along the way that agriculture was more than just horses. And then when I did my internship in 4-H, I was like, oh, okay, so entrepreneurship and all these other things, fashion and design, all these other things play a role in 4-H as well. So when my wife and I, once we met and eventually, married, we attempted to start a 4-H club through a social organization per se some years back, and unfortunately just never materialized. So in my mind, I said, well, once we do decide to start a family, one day, I'll make sure that my children are in 4-H. And so once our oldest child, our oldest daughter, became of age per se to at least join as a Clover kid, then, we decided that, okay, this is now time to start a 4-H club. And the fact that I'm an HBCU grad, she works for Prairie View A&M University, we wanted to make sure that there was an HBCU foundation, with it, because I am a huge proponent of HBCUs, and we wanted to make sure that our youth in our 4-H club would always be exposed to HBCU culture throughout their entire time as 4-Hers.
That is wonderful because I'm also a graduate of Prairie View. My husband is, and as well. PV produces productive people.
Amen, amen, amen.
And it, like you said, it has been a breath of fresh air, number one, for my kids and your kids to be exposed to HBCUs. It's kind of like how a different world inspired so many people in that generation to go to HBCUs and the value of it. Having a 4-H club that targets or promotes HBCU culture is also just a breath of fresh air. And I want to kind of segue into that because, and maybe Miss Austin, you can speak to that. A lot of the land grant HBCUs actually do a lot with promoting and sponsoring 4-H clubs and helping. Is that true, or can you shed some light?
Yes, one thing they tell you when you start working for the extension program is that 4-H is everybody's business. So we're all responsible for doing 4-H in some form, some shape, form, or fashion. You're going to be involved with youth programming. So yes, ma'am, every land grant university is going to have some responsibility with 4-H programming.
That's great. And Mike, again, we have benefited or been the recipients as club members of that. I want you, Mr. Austin, to kind of share some of the highlights of our 4-H club, because one of the things, and you can speak on it more, but one of the things that I have really admired was the fact that you bring in Black entrepreneurs and Black professionals from different local Black professionals to share with the kids what they do and expose them to different arenas that they can enter. Can you share with us how you got that idea and whatnot?
Well, I would say the seed was planted early on when I was growing up. I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama, lived there the first 12 and a half years of my life before relocating to Texas by way of military. And I remember on career day that was the first time in my life that I saw a group of Black professionals outside of school teachers. Okay, so they had a Black doctor show up. They had, some various entrepreneurs. And again, it was like, wow, I didn't think, any Black people at that age. Of course, I'm thinking, I didn't think any Black people really, was successful outside of school teachers, in my community per se. And so anyway, fast forward, becoming a social worker, especially at Prairie View, one thing that was always drilled in us is the art and science of networking. The art and science of networking, meaning you can get a lot done, a lot accomplished as a social worker as far as fulfilling your duties if you choose to network and master the art and science of networking. So with that being said, a lot of the classmates that I had at Prairie View A&M, like for instance, my roommate of 3 years, one of my roommates at Prairie View for 3 years is now a very successful doctor. And, I love, contacting him anytime, it may be something going on with my health or whatever. And also, people that were in the band. If I need to get a contact, I say, hey, I have this young man, a young lady that wants to try for the band, who I need to contact, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just the beautiful idea of not only being HBCU educated, but knowing all these other various, Black professionals that are just doing some really big things that I know would be nothing but motivation for our youth to see and be able to engage with.
Yes, and I've appreciated that, especially because with homeschooling, it has kind of opened up our mind that, there's a lot of different pathways that people can follow. Like for example, I was really impressed when you had the salon owner come in and the samples are great, and share with kids about, running and operating a salon in the market. Who else do we have?
We had one of my other former roommates who is a successful engineer. He, I guess, facilitated the robotics course that we had, I think a year or two ago. And we've had someone come in, Miss Dory Collins, about gardening, or planting and gardening.
A baker.
Yes, we had a baker, one of your fellow scientists per se, and Mrs. Freeman, Sweet Eats Bakery. And again,
we've had you.
Exactly. So yes, those are just a few of the many greats that we've been able to bring in and expose our youth to.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that has also been close to my heart is the sense of community that you guys have really pushed. I know my daughter has done a lot, both of my two oldest have done a lot with food and nutrition, but especially as a Healthy Texas Youth Ambassador, she has worked with the Bell County Hunger Coalition, which Miss Cheryl Austin is the chair over. And one of the things that was really eye-opening about one event that we attended, and Jasmine did her presentation about alternative sugars, substitutes for sodas and whatnot. I was just amazed at all of the different outreach to the community. And so, Ms. Austin, what inspired you with the Bell County Hunger Coalition? Because you have a ton of experience in nutrition and 4-H as an extension agent and whatnot. So what inspired you to start the Bell County Hunger Coalition?
Well, I actually was not the person that started it. It actually got started with the person that was the director. Her name was Tasha. She was the director of Helping Hands in Belton Food Pantry. And she felt like there were a lot of different agencies that were involved with hunger and food insecurity, but maybe everybody was not really working together. They were kind of working in silos. And so she kind of had this vision to come together with a coalition that would get us all working together. My interest to the group is just because my past is growing up poor and being in a food insecure family growing up. And so knowing what that feels like, you don't want other people to experience that if they don't have to. And so I've always been about how can we empower individuals and families in our community. And so as people moved in their positions, it kind of fell on me to continue leading. So that's how I kind of became the leader.
Okay, well, hey, you know what? Sometimes it God puts it in our hands and we
Right.
run the next leg of it. But one of the things that I've appreciated about the Bell County Hunger Coalition is the fact that you have included 4-H members like my daughter and the daughter of Miss Dory Collins from the Unincluded Club to participate and be active voices in that, because a lot of times, organizations may have things for kids to do, but it's like for them to actually be active leaders or participants in it and be able to fully like contribute like someone else would, it's been very inspiring. Um, so I want to change a little bit topic, going back to our 4-H club. It has grown. So it started off somewhat small, right? But
Yes.
like last year, our 4-H club received an award. Can you speak on that? Were you surprised?
I was definitely surprised. And I will say this before we proceed any further. This beautiful lady, my extreme better half, she is the brains and power behind our 4-H club. A lot of people was at the meetings will see me on the surface, but a lot of those ancillary things will not get accomplished if it wasn't for her. Like we just got rechartered, and if it wasn't for her, because I can't do none of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I just know how to network. But yes, we started off very small because we had to meet the mandate, I think, of at least 5 families and
5 members.
5 members. I'm saying, and they most of them have to be from different families, correct?
You have to have at least two different
So the recruiting part for us to go ahead and get started, get chartered was kind of kind of a challenge at first, but once we got our 5 members in, because like I said, our oldest daughter was only a Clover kid at the time. Once we got those 5 members in, it's like whoo. Then COVID happened like right after we had our first meeting, so we had to start meeting on Zoom, and so that wasn't always the best recruiting tool because we had some youth that would tune in. It's like this is not for me or whatever. But needless to say, we kept on pressing on and pressing on, and then finally when we got a chance to meet in person, we were able to grow. So at last year's Bell County 4-H banquet, I think we were up to close to about 50 members. So we got an award for I think the fastest growing club or something to that nature. So when they called it out, I was really surprised because I just knew it had to be somebody else when they first announced what type of award it was. And so I was like, oh wow, So here we are, walking up to the podium to receive the plaque, take the pictures, etc. So yeah, so that's a blessing. I have to give God all the glory because again, like I said, we were scrapping to try to recruit enough numbers just to be able to charter a club, and then next thing you know, we got hit by a pandemic, and hey, here we are about to go into our 5th year with another opportunity to continue to run the Syntex HBCU Alumni 4-H Club.
So, keeping that in mind, and now that the club has evolved or grown, what are some hopes that you have, the two of you have, for the continued growth of the club? And how do you feel that parents, the 4-H club parents, can help the club to grow as well as the kids?
Well, I would say part of my vision is that the kids take on even more leadership in the club, as far as like right now, we do a lot of helping with them with how to run the meeting and everything, but I'd like to see them to where they're trained, where they just know what to do. We don't have to say, okay, this comes next, and that they are actually giving input into speakers that we bring in for the programs, more community service that they are actually leading, and to lead programs like your daughters have done, the food and nutrition, and even they help with when you give the presentations for the meetings. But I would like to see more of our youth, if they're involved in a project, that they're actually leading a program for that and training others in the club.
And you mentioned in reference to the parents, the main thing is just, of course, keeping them involved, and even inviting them to, to help us to continue to recruit, but also, to participate in the meetings as well. One thing that really kind of, touched my heart as well is that there's a 4-H club in Waco or McLennan County, and they, towards the latter part of the year, were actually shadowing us because they also are wanting to run an HBCU, 4-H club from an HBCU type of foundation. And Mrs. Chisa Brigham, kudos to her and her 4-H club. They're going to actually use the same name, but they have to put Waco in front of it. Okay. So the Waco Syntax HBCU Alumni 4-H Club. So that lets you know that we're still growing, and we hope to have other satellite type of 4-H clubs out there that are all about, again, making sure our youth get exposed to HBCUs and entrepreneurship, and also hopefully helping as many of our youth as possible that choose to attend college to hopefully have scholarships to HBCUs.
Very good. Awesome. And it is really, again, inspiring. It's not every day that you have a couple that builds things from the ground up. And it's a blessing to see that others are saying, hey, this is really cool what you guys are doing. I want to do something similar in my community, which is kind of what 4-H is all about, right?
I have to also give kudos to Mrs. Dory, I should say Mr. Travis and Mrs. Dory Collins, because they were sponsors. They have been sponsors for our 4-H club for like an entire year and have been, supportive. They've also, helped with recruiting in the past. They're going to be running their own 4-H club, but like I said, I have to give them credit because again, they helped us tremendously with sponsoring us. So I can't leave them out. Okay, and that's again with the Unincluded Club and Cultivate. All right.
Very good. All right. Yes, Ms. Collins and her husband have been very integral in helping us as a club. So I want to thank you all for doing this podcast. I think this is inspirational for a lot of Black homeschoolers and just Black public school, Black people. And I think you guys are community minded. I think a lot of us need to get back to being community minded and uplifting each other. And so I am thankful that I have met such two trailblazing Prairie View people. Okay.
Yeah, amen.
Don't forget to click like and subscribe to be notified of future videos. Also, don't forget to check out my website, www.aheartforhomeschool.com.